like you and me, paying more for energy, gas, petrol, electricity, water. Farmers are paying more for fertilizers, pesticides. So we see a lot of prices go up, inflation, and then another IMF imposed program involves devaluation of currency. And this is the result. The result is massive unemployment, layoffs. So we're basically seeing people, this is a scene from somewhere in Sindh, I'm not sure where, people are holding up their degrees and they don't have jobs. So this is the next sum, just some figures. Obviously this is not an exhaustive list of how poorly we're doing, but just an illustration. So we see as a result of IMF imposed policy, the creation post-1988 of the new poor. The new poor are people, जो 88 से पहले ठीक ठाक थे, massive layoffs, right? Cuts in government spending, layoffs in the public sector, right? आपने अपने government को privatize, इदारों को privatize किया, rise in unemployment, and we have, this is a very startling figure, 72% illiterate females. This is a figure from 2005. Of course, the military budget, the spending is not been cut, and so you have, for every one doctor, you have 9 soldiers. 45% of people in Pakistan don't have access to healthcare, 55% don't have sanitation facilities. Those of us who work in the rural areas know this, those of us who work in the slums. And most of the poor, the working poor, are spending all of their income in just being able to survive. On food, on rent, and energy, paying for gas. So this is Eric Toussaint, who works for the committee for the to abolish third world debt, CADTM. Now he's written a lot about it, and a lot of the information that I've produced here on these slides is actually from Eric Toussaint's book, The Debt Trap. And one of the things that he says is this, right? कि हम लोगों का ये ख्याल होता है कि थर्ड वर्ल्ड के अंदर, स्पेशली पाकिस्तान के अंदर करप्शन इतनी ज़्यादा है, जरदारी है और ये कि that is the problem. If our elite could just solve their problems and stop being corrupt, everything would be fine. And I'm not denying that. That is a problem. Corruption here. Obviously, the elite of our country are colluding with IMF and signing these deals. But the problem is actually much deeper and more systemic than that. Because these problems, the debt crisis problems, is not just Pakistan. It's also Philippines, it's also Egypt, it's also Mexico, right? It's also African countries, all of Latin American countries. So it's the corrupt elite everywhere, which collude with the IMF and produce these SAPs and conditionalities, which have detrimental effects on the people. So this is GCs, developing countries. Again, a very shocking figure. How much have they paid? Since the 1970s to now, this is the current figure, the developing countries of the world have paid IMF's have taken 3.89 trillion loans. This is a loan amount. Itna loan liya hai. The principal amount paid on it is 2.83. The interest paid on it is 1.52 trillion. Therefore, those of you who have this criticism, okay, it's ethical, if you've taken a loan, you should return it. There's nothing ethical about it because we've already paid. They've already made quite a bit of profit. So there has been a lot of principal and interest paid on the debt that the developing countries have taken. Okay. And this is a figure for Pakistan. In the 90s, we paid back $36 billion to foreign creditors. And we also added, in the same period, we added 15 billion to our debt stock. So it's basically, paisa jata hai, paisa aata hai. It's not true for South Asia, but there are certain Latin American and African countries where they're actually paying out more in debt and principal than is actually coming in the form of new loans. In 2000, our loan amount was 32, it's much more now, it's about 50, and in the next 15 years, it's supposed to grow exponentially to about 70. As a result, we see this. These were food riots that happened around the world in 2008, but periodically you will see that the poor people can't take it anymore. The burden is too much, right? Things start bursting at the seams. And so you see 20,000 textile workers in 2008 in Bangladesh were out in the street because they were protesting the rising prices of food as a direct consequence of these programs. Same thing, Mexico. ये 2008 की तस्वीरें हैं, लेकिन these riots are not isolated, they happened periodically. Even in 1980, Mexico was, a lot of countries were in a severe debt crisis. They couldn't pay their debt anymore. Why? Because the central banks of the West, the global north, unilaterally decided that interest rates led to increased interest. So all of a sudden they were obligated to pay a lot of money in debt, and they weren't making as much money in terms of revenue. And so there was a debt crisis, and people suffered a lot. So this happened in the 80s, this is happening now. So the other thing is that loans are never driven by the needs of the people. So the programs that we are taking these loans for are not really programs that involve a democratic debate amongst people as to whether we need these programs. So some of the things that the loans come for are these. And this is something that Eric Poussin points out in his book. So the loans that we're taking are for large dams, power plants, right? And one view is that it's to basically extort and take out raw material, because if you have railways and pipelines, then obviously it's going to be easier for the countries of the north to take out raw materials and resources from the countries of the south. And dams don't really work for people. There's a huge movement in Narmada Bachao Andolan against dams, but even in Pakistan, we are looking at $12.6 billion to create a new dam, the dam of Bhasha Dam. But in an era of global warming, in an era of like when we're going to be facing massive droughts in the next 20 years, the question is that do we need big dams? What is the social cost of a big dam? Social cost ये होती है कि लाखों लोग जो हैं वो अप्रूव होते हैं, और ये पूरी दुनिया के अंदर यही होता है कि लोग जो होते हैं वो अप्रूव होते हैं, पानी स्टोर करता है, और जो डाउनस्ट्रीम जो कम्युनिटीज होती हैं जैसे पंजाब से नीचे आके सिंध, they are actually affected in a very bad way. LBOD is the next slide is just an example. We have a lot of failed World Bank projects. This is an example of a failed World Bank project that the World Bank acknowledges was a massive failure. This was basically the Left Bank outward doing. They were supposed to create a channel for effluents from land and Sindh into the sea. And it was a major disaster because they didn't actually incorporate the traditional wisdom of people, farmers, the local people, Badin, Thatta, Hyderabad ke logon ko. Or as a result, it completely destroyed farmlands, it destroyed wetlands, and was a major ecological and environmental disaster. Okay, so the next point that I'm going to make is, this is on odious loans. Odious loans बोलते हैं जो military dictators लेते हैं. Our argument is that all loans are odious, whether taken by military dictatorship or by democratic dictatorship. This is Moin Qureshi. He was the ex-World Bank vice president who was part of an interim government, and he was responsible for negotiating a lot of these loans. So he was representing the government of Pakistan, but it's doubtful that he was actually representing his old employers with the World Bank. So we see some of these agreements. One day before Benazir Bhutto was sworn in, the first democratically elected government coming in 1988 after his era of Zia, she comes into power. The loan agreement with the IMF was signed a day before she is sworn in. It was very shocking, undemocratic, completely. And then in 1993, again we see the same thing happen. Just 5 years later, Moin Qureshi, ex-World Banker, signs a second World Bank IMF agreement, which obviously, as we've seen before, massive detrimental impact on the poor. Next. So, whenever the democratic government has tried to take a stand and done something in the budget which is pro-people, as the PPP government did in 95 and 96, tariffs they got critiqued for it, they got a lot of flack, and they then had to make a U-turn and go back to policies that were agreeable to the IMF. So this is just a brief graph showing our debt. So our debt is currently at about $55 billion. This is our external debt. I'm not breaking it down into the different lenders, but this is our total external debt, and this is where it stands. Now, this is our current expenditure. Now, by some estimates, our current expenditure basically 50% of our budget is allocated to defense and debt servicing alone. So this is actually a current budgeted expenditure which shows a slightly higher figure of 44% going to loan servicing and 22% going to military expenditure. Musharraf era, I haven't talked so much about it. Like Musharraf era pretty much continued the structural adjustment policies before. There was a massive write-off of about 1.2 to 1.5 billion. So it freed up money. Now, the problem was that this freed up money was not used in a pro-people, pro-poor way. Instead of developing, investing in industry or investing in ways that would actually provide employment for people, what they did was, the economic growth was a bubble. And then the bubble popped. It was based on credit card and phones becoming available, loans becoming available, all banking based rather than actually growth from below. So the bubble pops, and we see, next slide. So this is financial sector. So this is what we see. A lot of the money was basically consumption oriented. A lot of the growth was all consumption oriented rather than pro-people. What are the solutions? How do we break the chains, right? Tax the rich. So what we've seen is regressive taxes, sales tax, value-added taxes. Instead, we need to be taxing a progressive way, and we tax the rich people. Out of a population of 2005 figure, 150 million people, only 1.5 million people in this country pay taxes. So we need rich people to pay taxes. Agriculture accounts to right now 25% of our economy. Agriculturalists are not taxed. Audit. Ecuador, a country in Latin America, did an audit. So we need either a people's tribunal, people like us, auditing, or we hire people and audit this debt. किसने लिया, कहाँ से आया, किधर गया ये पैसा, और इसकी accountability हो. Democratically लिया गया, पार्लियामेंट में डिस्कस हुआ या नहीं, and apparently पार्लियामेंट के अंदर बजट डिसाइड होता है, और there is a democratic debate in parliament about whether or not we should incur this debt. Defense spending, we need to cut defense spending, there's no question about it. It's really using up at the expense of the poor, using up a lot of our resources. And we've seen, we're not the only ones. I mean, this is something we're talking about today, but all over the world there is a movement against for debt cancellation. 2001, there was a massive Seattle protest in Washington State in the US. And we have in Mexico since 1994, we have the Zapatista movement that has been fighting against debt cancellation and a lot of the IMF imposed policies. So we have movements everywhere, and the idea is for us to be engaged in a dialogue and also start a radical movement over here and demand debt cancellation. That's about it. And now I'm going to pass the mic to Nasser Saab to actually talk about land reforms, and then we'll open it up for discussion.